Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my own little familiar. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends.
Oh, my other thing is muted. Sorry, I had that up so I could listen to the comments. That's fun.
Way to ruin the show, Vince.
Right off the bat, delivering the low quality that people have come to expect from our show. Absolutely. Also joining us this week is Mr. Doom and Darkness. There's just one person, but he embodies all of it. How you doing, sir?
Good. I'm bipolar. You see, that's why I get hectic in darkness. And both sides are bad. There's no good side.
Absolutely. I like that you're slightly off center frame. You're very artistic. Like I'm trying to the left, you're to the left. Tom is the only one who's centered up. See, you got to be cool, yeah. Tom. It's like a Fellini movie where we're recording here, so you should get on board.
I could like turn my laptop and look to the side.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
Is that what you guys want?
Good.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Here, let me just do this, and I'll just hobby the whole time while we're talking.
Well, there's no time for that, Tom, because you've got to talk about the news.
It's true. It's true. I'm not sure where to start. There's been a lot going on this week, surprisingly. I'll start with the newest rumor, which is the rumor engine image dropped, the new Harpoon. And I got a feel for what this is, but I'm interested to see have you guys seen this image yet?
I have, and I have photos, but go ahead.
I have seen that. That's the
okay.
one piece of news that I have seen.
So Doom, what do you think it is?
Oh, I've got no idea, man. I look at these like weapons that they just stick up with one random gem on it, and I look at all the speculation that spills forth, and I just laugh. Like I'm happy just to wait and see till it comes out. I'm really sorry to not get into it, but I don't know. I've got no idea.
Let's share up that image.
Yeah. Let me say it's going to be a harpoon fired from a dwarven zeppelin.
That is the right answer.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Are a prophet, and here's why. Okay, here's why. First, harpoons on zeppelins on ships makes total sense. But more than that, it has the weird, funky, like hook-shaped thing that like all the fire slayers have.
Oh, that's that weird back hook.
Yeah, like it's just an unusual aesthetic that had cropped up on the fire slayers, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Like I guess the dwarves are really into picks now. And then sure enough, like this thing rolls around with that hook on it, and I'm like, yep, that's a Zeppelin harpoon.
Well, what makes me agree with you, Tom, is two things. One, this thing's kind of scuffed. It's not real smooth, right? They've done the lines on here to make it look scuffed and stuff, right?
Yep.
Two, the haft is metal, not wood,
yeah.
Right? So people who are talking about elves don't have metal hafted spears generally. And three, this isn't a traditional elvish gem. It's got this big round gold ring around it. It's very round, right?
And I can grab a bunch of dwarves off the shelf over here that have the rounded gems with the rim around.
Yep.
Yeah. My money is on a Zeppelin javelin.
The Air Force is coming, Tom. The signs build every day. Absolutely.
I know. Like I'm really torn. Like I was diving into my 10K of unpainted Tomb Kings. Like that was happening, and then I'm like, but I could get flying dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
Man, like I don't know. We'll see. GW, it's your move. That's all I'm saying. Okay. As promised, this being the month of Tzeentch, January, if you will, we found out some more stuff on the forthcoming Tzeentch release. The character acolytes are going to be $20, or I'm sorry, no, they're not. They're going to be 20 models per box for 50 USD.
Correct. This is them right here. There you go. You can see you get the little special loadouts like the guy with the scroll and the guy with the bird. So there you go.
It's just awesome. Like I love how they look. Like I'm not going to collect another army. Dear Lord, do I not need another army? But
these are really good figs, I will say, having painted them obviously for Silver Tower. And like their little rippling muscles, like these dudes are stacked like that, and they're very much like they take the sort of GW style of painting very well, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, that skin reacts, although the muscle tone reacts well to washes and such. So there you go. It wouldn't be a show of Warhammer Weekly if Vince wasn't talking about ripped dudes. So that's all I'm saying.
Also true. The other thing I would say about it is So I've been working I'll get to this in the hobby time, but I've been working on converting over a bunch of the Blood Reavers to Marauders. And I think these guys would make excellent Marauders of Tzeentch. Like if people were wanting to do like Marauder conversions, I think
totally.
These guys are like prepped to be Marauder conversions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are there any more Tzeentch releases that we know about?
Yes, there are, in fact. We obviously have the Ogoroid Thaumaturge coming in at $41, surprisingly enough. 41 US. So he's the equivalent of like, he's probably going to be 80 for you guys. Which, like, man, you're like a quarter of the way to a Silver Tower box at that point. You may as well just sink in, like tuck in for the Silver Tower box and just sell off everything you're not going to keep.
I can't tell. Go ahead.
I'm struggling to buy things that aren't in a box set now. I just, I'll just buy 2 Ironjawz battle forces and that's it, or get started in the Ironjawz. I never ever want to buy anything individually.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I somehow accidentally, since our last show, maybe fell into a Pestilence Virulent Horde box. It happens.
That's like 2 of my most hated things in the world. That's like Skaven and Nurgle. That is the worst scum around.
Well, it happened. So apparently I might be starting a Pestilence army. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, wow.
But I agree. Like, I love the boxes. And GW, if you want to release a Fire Slayer box, I was thinking about this today, with the other Dwarf release, like around, like as an ally getting started, I wouldn't complain, and I could possibly even be convinced to start a small contingent of Fire Slayers. Just saying.
The Gaunt Summoner's also on that list. I didn't. Yeah. He's 25. I think he's Australian 40. There you go. So I can't read the number for the Aussie Ogoroid Thaumaturge. Sorry, it's too little.
It is worth noting that he. So this is the model from Silver Tower, obviously.
Yes.
He is not on his disc, which suggests that he does not have his familiars either. And so the Silver Tower Gaunt Summoner had 4 familiars that were like integral to the War Scroll. So but this guy doesn't have the disc like the other one. So the question is this a 3rd Gaunt Summoner scroll?
The rumors are saying yes, and that we're going to get new scrolls for a couple of other existing models as well. Interesting.
Because that would give us 3 different Gaunt Summoner scrolls, which is fascinating considering the fact that there are only 9 in existence. 9 Gaunt Summoners. Let's hope that he probably is going to have a new spell, which is unfortunate because the Gaunt Summoner spell from Silver Tower is a great Horde army counter.
And then you had the book itself, which is also a pretty square deal.
I was getting there. Yes.
Yeah.
$25 for that book, US.
It's pretty good. I'm glad to see the Battle Tome prices come down. That's a good thing.
The reality is that I'm buying this book. Like, I'm not starting the army, but for $25, I'm going to pick up this book. Like,
I'll start the army because, like, I love Tzeentch. I've still got Doom sitting on the shelf. I can bring him back. Doom can come back and rock the world, but I kind of just wish that I could mark all my Beastmen with Tzeentch and then kind of incorporate them a little bit to flesh the faction out a bit. I think that would be perfect if you're listening, Games Workshop.
Cough, cough. Yes. No, I agree. All of these, I'll already say the Zangor have joined up like as a multi-fledged thing for me because I had originally ordered a bunch of extra Zangor when they were just being broken out from the Silver Tower. Like I picked them up secondhand and I use them as Bestigor in my Beastman force. And I've just had them as like Zangor waiting for this release for them to take their, so I dual use them, right? Because I think they make pretty good Bestigor too, like cool alternate Bestigor.
Absolutely fantastic. And I mean, imagine you've got that, what do you call him? The Thaumaturge? The Thaumaturge?
Yep. Yes. Mr. Tuge.
And then you've got him side by side with a Doom Bull. Like, hello, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
You've got a Gorgon hopping around. You've got some Bestigor. You've got those other new guys, the Zangors or whatever. And then you've got some Acolytes or something. This is just heaven.
And I mean, look, hey, Gore battle line all the time. So I'm just saying, a little bit of Gore running around, and you're good. No matter how you start spreading across chaos.
So do you think Zangor are going to be battle line? If you're straight Tzeentch?
I don't know. My guess is probably yes, right? If you're straight, you mean if you're within the sub faction, probably them and the acolytes, right? One would think would both become battle line if you're straight in the faction.
Like, do you think it is straight Arcanite, like Tzeentch Arcanite, or just Tzeentch?
Probably Tzeentch Arcanite, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
It's like they are as unpredictable with that. Could you have ever predicted that like Flesh Hounds could be battle line if Karanak was your general and you were purely in Corn Demons? I mean, okay.
I wouldn't have seen that one coming. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, what I'll say is this, just as a brief note before we close out on the book. GW, if you are listening, if you keep this price point at 25 US for these battle tomes, I will probably buy every battle tome going forward.
It's much more appealing, and I think it's the right answer to price these lower because it does encourage people to just do what you said, pick up the book, and the book is the first step on the road to hell of collecting the army, right? I mean, that's the reality of the thing.
Because I'm going to want to know it to play against it.
Yep.
And so I'm willing to fork out $25 for that. I'm not willing to fork out 40 to 50. And so I mean, I think that if they were to do something like this at this $25 price point, I think they're going to sell a lot more books and probably bring in a lot more money. But I'm not their accounting guy, so they need to find out if that's feasible. Do it. Okay. Let's see. We have the Warhammer Open Day that has happened this week, and we've had a number of leaks from that have been super exciting. Exactly. The big one being the Corn Dragon, which they did agree, or they did acknowledge this is the size of that Smog mini.
See, I told you it was the size of Smog, and you were like, I don't know.
Which means that you are looking at like a $350 mini right there at
Bear Mins, yeah.
That dude, like that wall that you see down there, looks like scale wise, it's probably the size of one of the shard walls for the Blightstone Keep.
Sure.
Like the is it Dread?
The Dreadstone Blight.
Yeah, that's probably what you're looking at there. So what that would mean is that Glotkin would stand, the top of his back would be just over this guy's back. But this guy is then going to be about like 4 body lengths wider. I mean, he is going to truly sit on like a dinner plate.
Yeah, the question is go ahead.
Is this a thing we can buy and play with? Is this what you're trying to tell me? Like, this is a real thing that's going to happen?
Yes, it's going to be a Corn Dragon. It'll be a Bloodbound unit. It'll be a Bloodbound Dragon. Yeah. Yep. Like, yeah. It is huge and it's amazing looking. Vince, you have the shot from top?
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
This is the only image.
If you look on his back, like that's pedestal, it's a huge corn symbol.
Which is also a nice flat space where you can mount a guy on it. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And the dude is standing there and like one foot is up on one of those little horns sticking off from the corn symbol. And he looks all mean and like hulking. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful like model when like a centerpiece, like a true centerpiece. Like he will be larger than Archeon.
It looks like Forge World resin. Does it? Or is it just...
It is, yeah. It's Forge World. Yep, it is Forge World resin.
Like this dude looks bigger than the War Mammoth.
I mean, I'm sure he is. I want to know, can Glotkin shelter under his wings? That's the question. Can he keep Glotkin out of the rain? Yeah,
I think so. So here's the real question. What is his points at?
I mean, if this guy's pointed appropriately for what he is, he's going to be like, if his destruction is equal to his size, he'll be like a 700, 800 point model, right?
I'm saying 900 to 1,000.
Sure.
Yeah. I think 1,000, and you can just put this guy on the table by himself and just fight. That's it. That's all I want. I'm just bringing a dragon, and that's it. And you can take a whole army, and this will be great. This is all I want.
He's likely marked Corn. I mean, that's probably a suitable assumption, right? So you're going to want to throw 2 Blood Secrators down with him.
I wonder if he's got...
And Blood Reavers. And legions of Blood Reavers. Sure.
The question I have is he going to have 2 scrolls? Like one that's just him and one that's him with the guy on the back, a la, the Terror Geist or whatever.
No. This is you're going to get an Archeon situation. Like this will be a unified scroll. I can't imagine.
It'll always be the guy on the back,
like Elsebeth, or like the other mounted Forge World, like Drahoaz, the Ashen, from Chaos Dwarfs. Like all of them are singular mounted monsters.
Yeah, sure.
But he's beautiful, and this is coming. GW or Forge World seems to have been working on it for a year now. Please hurry. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Tom's got some Christmas money clearly burning a hole in his pocket. He's ready to.
I do.
Ready to drop it.
And I was like, I'm not going to do Tzeentch. I'm sitting on it. Like maybe I'll do Dwarves or wait later in the year. But if this dude dropped, like I could do a 2,000 point Bloodbound faction pretty quick. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Other things that leaked from there were the Hobbit Ram Riders.
But now,
yeah, they are so cute.
Yeah, dude, look at that. They're riding rams. Like, that is an awesome mounted cavalry. Like, I hate dwarves, but those guys are cool. Like, that's just sweet.
I wish that we had a count. Like, I wish they had a good count as scroll, and there's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, the scale obviously is a little bit smaller because those look like 50 mil rounds, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit stuff is true 28 millimeter, so they are a little small.
Yeah, but still, they are flippin' beautiful. So kudos to Forge World for the work they've been doing there. So and then other things that have dropped. Did we have anything else from the Games Day or not the Games Day?
I mean, they also showed some of the other Lord of the Rings models. I don't have photos of all of them. Like they showed some of the other new Gundabad units and stuff like that. That's the last photo I have. But it looks like a lot of cool stuff. The big Gundabad trolls and stuff could be some really nice new alternate trolls and ogres and other similar type chaos or destruction creatures, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. So just a couple brief things because we do need to transition. The new rules for Silver Tower are coming in February in the White Dwarf. My money is on the Tzeentch release models getting Silver Tower rules that don't, like the new Tzeentch, like the Disc Riders and stuff like that. We'll probably see Silver Tower rules for them specifically. And maybe even, like, I'm wish listing here, but maybe even another wing of the tower, like a small mini adventure, like because you could do that by assembling a bunch of cards, like just you say include these decks, and then have read these room descriptions or whatever. So that you could easily do something like that in a couple pages on a White Dwarf. Obviously, I'm wish listing there, but I wouldn't surprise me if we saw something like that, more than just a unit or two, like maybe a small wing to go along with a unit of these units. Other things that have happened this week. Obviously, there's been talk about the AOS and Blood Bowl having releases amongst. So 40K is going through a big transition right now. It's not a true end times, but it's a pretty big dust up that's going to be happening. And because of that, they're going to have a number of major releases during these next 6 months. And that said, we will also have both Blood Bowl and AOS stuff sprinkled in the midst of those releases, they've said.
So I want to, since Doom, you also play some 40K. I heard your recent update. You're looking to get some more 40K games in. You got your Night Titans all back, right? So is any of the new 40K stuff enticing you?
Nope.
You haven't been longing for some Plastic Sisters or anything, so you're okay.
Look, if there was a full Sisters of Battle released in plastics, like that would be an army that I'd get and I'd try. But so far, everything I see from 40K is little tiny bolt-ons or little add-ons or like addendums to the rules of the rules and these tiny campaigns and box sets. And none of that interests me in the slightest bit because I'm not a 40K nut. You know, I'm someone who wants to still build an army and play a game, not sort of explore all these different little aspects of 40K and the fluff and whatever else. It just doesn't do it for me. And I don't know. I just feel like I can't spend the money on it unless it's going to be something that's wholesome and complete and I'm going to be able to enjoy for 8 months forward, not just it's the next fad, until the next sort of box set or whatever comes out. So, You know, I think I don't know, at my age as well, everyone's got kids. Everyone gets like unchained from their wives about once every 2 weeks, right? So each one of my friends, every 2 weeks, we have this small window of life that we're allowed to live. And so we go and say, what are we going to do? We're going to play Warhammer. This is our only chance. Let's go 3 hours. Let's just have a game and let's do it. So, you know, a lot of those smaller bolt-on sort of things, they probably don't work as well with that sort of chains. Yeah. So no, sorry.
Nope. Fair answer. That's a totally fair answer. There you go.
So given that, have you looked at the biker gangs of Cormorog or whatever, the standalone box game of like the speeder bike game?
I saw the picture of it, and that was enough for me to never read anything again on it.
You know,
honestly, yeah.
I'm not a 40K player, but like I see something like that, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. A little vehicle game, like I, you know, if that's a standalone box like Gore Chosen or something like that, like I might be down for something like that. That could be fun. And then I realized that that's a bad idea.
It is a bad idea, Tom. Listen to your inner self. Listen to the better angel sitting on your shoulder that looks like doom, telling you that you shouldn't do that. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So, and then finally,
yeah, go ahead.
Final piece of news this week was the South Coast GT came out with initially earlier this week with an announcement for the event that's coming, and they also included that the Compendium Scrolls weren't going to be allowed again this year. No, like they also had done that last year, and I was vocal about it then as well. But I probably wasn't as vocal about it as this year. And there's quite a war across the interwebs raging from the Twitterverse to TGA. There's a 9-page thread there that eventually got locked and got heated, and I may or may not have been involved in that conversation. That said, it was interesting because Dan came on today. And Dan, by the way, has dubbed this the Compendium Wars. And apparently he came on today onto Twitter and announced that there would be some concessions, or that they would be allowing Compendium Scrolls, but there may be point changes or other tweaks with some of the scrolls or some of the rulings. Which that makes perfect sense. So,
fair enough. Absolutely good. Can we all go back to the world not ending now? My God, what a dust up! It was the biggest deal in the world. Oh my goodness. Tio has decided not to use a portion of the book. Riots in the streets, baby. Riots in the streets. Like, oh, the nerd rage. I could feel it just emanating from my phone all last night.
Vince, don't get me started. Okay, that's news.
Yeah, I have two other little quick announcements.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, the voting for the Warhammer YouTubers ended, as did the charity drive. So I wanted to say two things about that. First, all the votes are tabulated, and the winners have been chosen. That has all been done by our offshore accounting firm that we have. Those envelopes are currently being escorted back to us by armed guards, and it will be announced on Friday night. We'll do the live announcement show. So forget the Oscars, forget the Golden Globes, any of that nonsense. Tonys, Grammys, garbage, all of them. EGOTing, nothing. Those people haven't Warhammer YouTubed. So there you go. That's the real award. We need a name for the award, like the Grammy or something. I need that. Anyways, the Utubby maybe. And so so we're gonna do that Friday night, and we also have the results of the charity thing done, and Tom and I are going to do the Q&A. I'm hoping to rope Tom into that this weekend where he's got some time. And so I'll answer all the questions that were asked, which there was a bunch of great questions, and we'll do all the drawings for all the giveaways. I got some more stuff donated at the end. So there's going to be a whole lot of stuff to give away to everybody who donated. Thank you very much to everyone. We basically tripled the initial goal. So I'm going to say it again much during the show, but I wanted to give a quick shout out and say thank you very much, everybody who opened your hearts and your wallets and gave generously to a wonderful cause. So thank you very much, everybody. All right.
Can I actually jump in? There is one more thing.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to do this both for Vince and the other people that have been nominated. So the TGA community has also run kind of something akin to our YouTubers Awards. But it was done in a little bit different manner. We mentioned it a couple weeks ago where there were a bunch of nominations. Well, the categories were actually narrowed down to 7 individuals. And actually, a number of the individuals from our community have been nominated for the finalists for this what they're calling the Age of Sigmar Community Champion Award 2016. Our own Vince Venturella is on there. Vince obviously has done a lot, and for those that wanted to vote for him for the YouTubers Award, notice that he was pulled out of all of the voting. You have an opportunity to now vote for him for this Community Champion Award. Now, that said, there are a number of other individuals that also have a very deserving presence on this list, and people that are within our community, including Tyler Mengel, including Alex Nygaard, including Tyler Emerson. So just a number of friends of the show. And so I would invite you guys to go check this out. There are obviously other people, Tony P. of scrollbuilder.com, Mo Ashraf, who did Clash Comp, Sean Houghton for hobbyhammer.com blog. And so I want to invite you guys to go check out the thread. We will post it below. There's a poll. If you're not registered with TGA, you'll obviously need to register, and you can vote. None of our people that are amongst the YouTuber community are currently leading that poll. So it is a public poll, and we are not ahead.
I would encourage everyone to ignore every other name that Tom just said and go to that page and just vote for Vince. Don't read anything. Don't look at anything. Don't bother exploring anyone's page or anything. Just vote for Vince, Warhammer Weekly, and all the fantastic work he does. Thank you, Vince.
Well, thank you.
I won't say that. I'm friends with Tyler, both Tylers. I
don't know any of them, and shamelessly, just go vote for Vince. Ignore Tom. Ignore him. Okay, he's got his friends. That's fine. Vince is my buddy. Let's go vote for Vince.
All right, I'll stay neutral in this, and I check it out. There you go. All right, very good. The link will be below. All right, so let's turn to some pick of the week. So, Doom, you're the guest. You get to share first. What would you like to share?
Well,
and feel free to shamelessly self-promote if you like. What do you got?
No. I want to actually. It was MC1 Gamer's latest report, and I don't watch a lot of battle reports, but I went and checked it out because it was a new form, and he's done a sort of narrative to go along with the slides. He's trying to explain the battle in a narrative as he goes, and it just reminded me of Midoram from 8th edition. I don't know. Of course, you guys know him, and I haven't seen anyone else doing it at the moment. And I just thought to myself, this would have been a lot of work, because I think he's written that out and then read it as the slides have gone. And like, I just put on a headset and talk shit. And talk bad words. That's all I do. There's very little preparation or editing or anything like that goes into it. And so when I see someone like that and trying something new and really putting that sort of effort, I just think, this is fantastic. This is sort of something that's missing, and it makes me want to try new stuff. So I think go check that out. Just because MC1 Gamer doesn't probably need much channel direction, but I thought that was great. I really appreciated the effort he went to.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, I agree. And it's good to see that more narrative element coming to the fore. I totally agree. And I also totally second what you say about the amount of effort. Like, anytime you're getting into writing a script, I've got a lot of respect. That's deeper than I'm going. That's for sure. Tom, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I want to highlight. This popped up in one of the Facebook groups, the Warhammer Facebook groups that I'm a part of. Dream Spirit Wargaming Studio shared one of the tables that they have kind of put together over time, and I just want to share this because this thing is just. Are you sharing beautiful.
A photo?
Yeah, I'm going to share a series of photos.
Okay.
And maybe it's my dwarfy heart. Like, I thought the dwarf in me was dead and then I saw this, and I'm like, nope, I want it. So that's part of their table, and by part I mean that's the front edge of the inside of the outside of the hall, and you can see, it's just dwarfy beautifulness. Little Bugmans on the outside, banners. You can see a little hawk, wood elf hawk in the background, flying amongst the cliffs. Just saying, this is top-notch work. So, Dream Spirit Wargaming Studio, good job.
Yep, good job. Vote for Vince.
Anyways, this was compelling, so I wanted to share it with the community. We'll have a link to some of their stuff down below.
Yeah, very cool. So people can go check it out and get inspired. I love the idea of a board separated in the middle. Like, my God, that would be hard to get into. You look at those little choke points, like, yeah, those dwarves really could hold that mountain for a long time.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, like, how you could design this to be a little bit more balanced. Like, I know it sounds weird.
Clearly, the dwarves have abandoned their home. There's an orc right at the front gate, and no one's just doing anything about it.
Yeah.
He's on the inside, too.
And he's balancing that axe.
And he's on a square base.
Exactly. He's hidden in the
square base.
Yeah.
He's been down there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he's hidden out.
A couple thousand years. You know, that's how it is. So I thought this was a beautiful, beautiful... oh, yeah. I'm in.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's pretty fantastic.
Okay, there we go. That's my pick.
Very cool. All right. So for myself, I want to direct everybody to a recent article that, one of the people you mentioned earlier wrote, Tyler Mengel. He has a really cool series he's doing about the definition of filth. And I thought it was a very fun article. So, what is filth? And he's invited some people from around the community to talk about what they think of as filth, or even, is there such a thing as filth? Like, is that even a term worth, I don't know, utilizing? In my day, we called it being beardy. I know that term has fallen out of favor, but
a list is filthy. Players are beardy.
Whatever. A beardy player plays filthy lists perfectly fine, one and the same. Okay. I'm not picky about it. I don't want to split hairs or beards or filthy beards. The point is that I thought it was a really, really well written thing. And I think in the first one, he's got Dan Heelan on, who's talking about what he sees and the way he looks at it. And obviously there's a lot of nuance to it and stuff like that. So it's just an interesting discussion, because I think a lot of people do get somewhat butthurt about this sometimes, I guess is what I would say generously. People often feel like there's an inequity. For example, one of Mr. Doom's recent reports, he might have brought a filthy list and just smashed his opponent into the ground, which I thought was fun to watch, because it was, watching Anubis do the dirty business on those order forces was certainly, frankly, it warmed my icy heart. That's all I'll say. So nothing wrong with that.
Well, everything's relative, isn't it?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't have a filthy list, So
I tweeted that same thing in response to them, of like, it's all subjective, because like one man's filth is just good list building.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways.
As usual, the golden rule remains: just talk to your opponent, communicate with him, right? Like, I mean, as you even mentioned, you weren't intending to bring a filthy list. You thought you were facing a different list, and then he ended up sort of switching on you at the last minute, but you didn't know that, right? So it wasn't like, so I mean, it's just, as usual, just communication with your opponent, discussing what you're each bringing is the way to avoid a weird mismatch, right? Because
where someone gets crushed.
It's really, really not rocket science. All right, so let's turn to some quick hobby time. So, Doom, what are you working on, man? You've been back. You're not out at out of the bush. What have you been filling this hobby time with? What's been on the table?
So I'm trying to do my Ironjawz, right? Like I'm trying to get this started. It's going to be my new army for 2017 and all of that sort of good stuff. For a whole number of reasons, which I've spoken about, but it's so slow. And I have to say, I have been away from the hobby for a little while, and I forgot how painful it is to build and just assemble and then like just paint so many little sort of guys. So I'm just starting on like my Ard Boys. They were the first thing that sort of arrived in the post. I've got 30 of these guys. So I have to get them done. That's like step one, and it is killing my soul.
It sounds like we need a return of Just Do It. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, but it's like, because I'm buying a lot of stuff, like they were secondhand as well. They all come on squares. So then I need to go get rounds for them. And then so, you know, I've got the little Age of Sigmar bases. I figured stuff it. I'll just do the whole army in these. And they kind of make my life easy because I'm a lazy sort of hobbyist. Like I just like GW made it. It's ready for me. I can slap some paint on and we're ready to go. So that's sort of that side of it. And then I got my Maw Crusher. So I couldn't believe like how cheap this guy was. I went into this store and they had like this entire stack of assembled Maw Crushers, and they were $4 each. And it's just blowing my mind. I'm just like, that is awesome. So I wanted to buy more Maw Crushers, but I sort of figured one is going to be good enough. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at, and everything else is you know, en route at the moment. So all my battle forces and stuff are coming, but Maw Crusher, Ard Boys, I'm on my way.
I think he looks great. I mean, I can see. I like your color choice.
They pre-painted it. I mean, like he doesn't get better than that.
I see you also chose to do sub assemblies and leave the orc off separate for painting. So you know that's you got the creature itself done. Yeah, it's great.
Hang on, is the orc missing?
He's he might be in the wings right now, like when they're folded up. Maybe he's just inside.
Maybe that's why they were only $4 each, because they're all missing orcs. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Good call. Yeah, discount.
Might have to go to eBay. I'll bet he's pretty expensive on eBay.
Secondhand, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's it for me.
Good stuff. I like it. And you know, real big advantage too. When you get tired of the army, unlike normal where you sort of, you know, because you tend to be someone who rotates through armies. When you're done here, you can have a delicious salad, and so that's really nice. It's really dual use. That's pretty good. What do you got?
So I finished my I basically finished my Plague Bearers, my block, my large block of Plague Bearers. And I just started today. I finished my conversions, grinding off all the corn symbols from my Blood Reavers, and got everything glued on bases. And so now I have these beautiful, I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe you see it against my face. Conversions of Marauders from Blood Reavers, like Nurgle Marauders, and they're flipping beautiful. Like the
Blood Reavers are great models. They really are.
Yeah, they really are. And this is like, it's going to come out so nice. So I'm super stoked. I hate the fact that I'm having to paint another infantry block for Holy Wars next month, but I am excited to have another set of these done, or another block done. So I'll have literally like, I'm not bringing all this to Holy Wars, but for my Nurgle stuff, from just a pure infantry standpoint, I'm going to have like 30 Chaos Warriors done. I'll have 30 Marauders done, 30 Plague Bearers done, and 15 Blight Kings. So I'll have a nice... What?
You've changed, bro. Like, you used to always be about, you know, the real noble armies like High Elves and Tomb Kings and Dwarves and whatever else. You were like the epitome of the good gamer. You're the good guy. You're like I better say this right or people lose their minds, the paladin of like the war gaming society. And now all of a sudden there's all this chaos filth and this dirty, stinking Nurgle crap. What's going, like, Scape? What's happening? What's happened to you?
I'm just
like tempted by the dark side, homie. Once you go chaos, you know, it pulls you in.
Yeah, well, I ran a doubles event with Vince. That's part of the problem. We did a Holy Havoc back in November, and I had to bring chaos because that's what he could reasonably put on the table. And so I figured I'd just finish out my chaos for Holy Wars in February, and then and then probably burn them. And transition to Tomb Kings, or potentially, I don't know. Like I said, I have I don't know if you know this. I picked up an Ironjawz army over the holiday as well, So I could also be starting on Ironjawz.
Great mind.
Yeah.
Great minds.
There you go. See, that's why I wanted to do this.
Have this within reach.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, lovely.
So for myself, I am going to be on the road for a bunch of this month, and I'll have almost no hobby time, which is crushing my soul. But I finished up my last 2 giants. I'm up to 5 giants for my all giant army. I'm going the opposite direction. No infantry. Got 10 giants. Call it a day. So I finished up the fire giant and the big hill giant, which I'm going to use as like the bone grinder giant. I'll use those rules for him. So now I'm doing the leader of the entire force, which is the storm giant. And there's where he's at right now. This is the storm giant something out of from Gale Force 9. And this is an awesome fig. Like he has, sorry, let me, he does, obviously he's in sub right now, but like that's his shield. It's this big crazy shield. So
I love that model.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And it's been a pleasure so far to paint. So we'll see. It's obviously I've still got a little ways to go, but it's a great model. So
do you have the whole pantheon of like Forgotten Realms giants?
Yep, I sure do. So now I've got frost, fire, stone, and 2 hill giants. And then that'll be the storm on top. I need to figure out how I'm going to convert the cloud. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So he'll have to be converted out of something. And then I might do a couple other special ones, but we'll see. Anyways, I got more giants. I have 4 more giants after that one to do. So there we are. All right. So let's get into the main segment tonight. So tonight we're talking Ironjawz. And, you know, we're as I said, we're going to we're gonna deep dive on the Ironjawz, okay? Because both of you have fallen into the allure of the Ironjawz, right?
They're just so pretty.
Yeah.
And I fought it. I fought it so hard. I fought it for like 6 months, and I've succumbed.
So let's start there. I thought the first thing we talk about is starting out your Ironjawz force, right? So like what's your first purchases? What's your essential gets? What can wait? You know, how did you look at starting your force? That kind of thing. So Doom, you know, you're into this now, as we just saw you picked up that great deal on the Maw Crusher. So what's your what was the way you approached the army? For starting out with
really small. Okay, the army's really small, so it's sort of enticing because you can say I can have this whole army and I can have it quickly, and I don't need to have 3 units of 40 grots or any of that sort of garbage. So you know, very quickly I can jump onto eBay, get 20% off UK prices, and I can get, you know, a starter box, a battle force. I can get a Maw Crusher. I've got the 3 main heroes I want. I've got my big monster. I've got all my battle line units because it's all inclusive. And I can pretty much go and just play straight away. And so for sort of, I think I worked out it's $400 retail, right? Mm-hmm. That's retail. For $400 retail, I can have a whole army brand new of Ironjawz. Yep. And that's kind of rare for GW. Like normally you're looking at $1,000 or something like that to be able to field a full army. But you know, for $400, I can be up and playing. So that was what appealed to me with the release of the Battle Force over Christmas. That was just like a holy hand grenade, and that's all we need. So I did get those secondhand hard boys because I just had the Ironjawz fever, and I couldn't wait for everything to come from the UK. So I needed something now, just to get the ball rolling. So I grabbed those. But
did you say you had 30 hard boys? Yeah. It's pretty ironic, in fact, because it appears as if probably short of my Maw Crusher, I have almost an identical set of models to you. And what I mean by that is I had left over from some of my old O&G stuff from 8th edition. I had 30 Art Boys. So I already had those in my case. And then when that Battle Force dropped, that was exactly the tipping point for me, because I looked at it and I said I could buy 1 Battle Force, I could buy 1 Getting Started box, and I could buy the Maw Crusher. And those 3 purchases with what I have could literally give me, and because of the way the points work, like everything is 180 points in the army. Like everything that's not like a hero or a monster is 180 points. And so because so much of it is interchangeable, you had a couple extra units over 2,000. So there's like a number of different army builds at 2,000 points that you can run that are all fairly fieldable, at least. They're not filthy, but they're fieldable at 2,000. And then the low-hanging fruit is another getting started box for the second drummer. It's you're right. Those 3 boxes give you a complete 2,000 point army with which you have extra units to sub in and out. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I kind of feel that, I know, Vince, you said that you probably disagree, and then your experience playing against them, they're very, very strong. But I can't really build the filth into this like I can with other armies. When I'm list building and so forth, I can make these guys strong, and I can make them sort of all comers. So I think I can deal with sort of any sort of situation. But I can't overload it. I can't throw 18 mortal wounds across the board. I can't slide 40 bloodletters in and do 25 mortal wounds in one round of combat or anything like that. And that's a little bit appealing, to be honest with you, because I sort of feel like I don't know. I feel like it is it's just complete. You know what I mean? I'm not playing with broken stuff. I'm not building an army purely to win or whatever. It's like models. It ticks all the boxes there. They look beautiful. They look fantastic. They still remind me of Space Marines a little bit. I don't know if any of you guys get that as well, but they still
the armor.
It's like all Space Marines.
Like the Weird Fist was like attracting me. I was like, man, I want to paint up a Weird Fist. It'd be awesome. And if the yellow and green looked like Space Marines, the orange and green definitely looks like Space Marines.
What color are you painting yours, Tom?
I haven't decided yet. Right now, I'm leaning towards doing a traditional yellow and black, because I'm going to pair them with my Night Goblins, which are black and yellow. So they're inverted primary, secondary colors. And so they would look good together.
I did discuss your Tron Force with Tom.
Oh, yeah. It's tough.
So we've digressed a bit, Vince. You started me off on with one very specific question, and I've just gone complete sideways. So
that's all right, man. It's all right.
Let you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good. I know what we're getting when we have Doom on the show. It's all good, man.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good conversation. It's good direction. I think you're exactly right. It is appealing. And here's what I'll say, because I totally agree with you. And what I meant to say was, like, when I responded and sort of commented on your video, I meant exactly that. I think they're strong, but I don't think you would accuse them of being filthy or anything like that. Whatever that means, right? They're strong, but they don't have that like skew. That's what I would say, to be fair, right? They do make very strong all-comers. Like, they can be fairly mobile. They can be fairly hitty. They deal with monsters well. They deal with infantry well. They deal with a lot of different situations pretty well. And they're tough. They can deal with lots of different scenario objectives very well. And the Force is just interesting. And I feel like it is a force that you feel good putting on the table, because it's going to perform well, but you don't feel like, I am showing up with the sail throwing the, what was on the Warhammer TV today, where they had sail tossing forward, the packs of 30 bloodletters that have been ramped to high hell and back, right? Dishing out like 25, 30 mortal wounds. It's not that, right? It's, but don't get me wrong, these guys are brutal. Like, if those brutes get into something, I watched like 3 of those brutes just beat a bloodthirster to death in the span of like a round and a half, right? Like, just murder the thing, because they're really, like, with just a little bit of support, and especially against big monsters, those brutes are such good, solid infantry. I think that's where the real one of the real keys is. We'll kind of talk about, we can kind of transition this into talking about the individual units. But for me, one of the real things that holds this army together is that, when you're in Ironjawz and your brutes are your battle line, those brutes are such strong models. Like, you feel really good putting them on the table. They're effective. They do what they do. They're tough enough. They beat the heck out of stuff. Like, they're a great model,
Yeah. I mean, their stat line, like hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, -1 rend, like it's a classic elite sort of stat line, but it's your battle line. Rerolling hits, they're probably going to be hitting on 2s anyway because you've got a boss around or you've got a weird chanter around or whatever. So they're going to pump out the damage. My only thing with them, though, is that, Age of Sigmar at the moment is such a game where it's so fast-paced and you just delete units, right? It's very much you go in with that Alpha Strike and you take that whole unit away. And when you put brutes, especially if it's just a unit of 5 or something, and you come up against 10 Retributors with 4-star Soul Maces, or a Dracoth charge or something like that, your brutes are just going to vanish so quickly. And but with Ironjawz as well, because you have the 3 battle line units, I feel like they've given you a tool for all of these different situations, right? You need to get places quick. You've got your Gore Grunters. You need to block. You've got your Gore Grunters. You need to set up a charge. You use your Gore Grunters to do that. You need bodies to capture objectives, and you need bodies to buff your wizard for casting. That's what your Ard Boys are around for, and then your brutes fill every other gap sort of in between. So even if you just do go take to the table 3 larger battle line units, I don't feel like I'm taking so for CanCon in Australia this year, I was meant to be going to that. I'm not now. I was meant to be taking Death, and really it would have been 3 units of 40 skeletons and all the buffs. I wouldn't have made a game past turn 3, and I would have known that playing to it, and they would have been miserable Warhammer. Like, it would have been terrible because, that's 120 skeletons moving each time, plus everything else. Like, it's just shit gaming. But, if you were to take 3 large groups of Ironjawz, you're still only moving 9 Gore Grunters. You're still only moving maybe 15 brutes or 10 brutes. You're still only moving, your biggest is going to be 20 or 30 Ard Boys. And that gives you enough to contest the objectives where you need to be to hit that big unit where you need to be. And it just there are frustrations for me about the faction because it is so small and you are so restricted. But it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword because it's also the beauty of the faction.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so kind of hitting on them individually, because I think you touched on a lot of the same ways I think about them. Like, so I have both an Ironjawz player and a Stormcast player in my sort of regular group, and they've run up against each other many times. And so I've seen that like Retributor brute fight go down, and here's what I'll say. If it's not the Retributors, there isn't much in there that comes out the other side of that fight, right? Like, brutes really will just manhandle most anything in that Stormcast force pretty fast. And quite efficiently, I might add, with usually taking very little hit, because that's the other thing of them. Those dudes are rocking a good number of wounds and have a decent save, right? So it's not like they're just some glass cannon. And I watched, the Stormcast player one game brought the Lord Celestant on Stardrake, and that guy got pummeled into the ground by like a group of 10 brutes, right? That just walked up and started duffing up the big thing. Now, certainly plenty, some of them died as well. They didn't walk out of that fight unscathed, but they had the tool to deal with that massive monstrosity, right? And that's really saying something for a battle line troop. But I think the Gore Grunters are like, you kind of mentioned them, that mobility. It's exactly right. There are things that fill roles. Like, the Gore Grunters are such a weird unit because they're a mobile anvil, right? They can get out there and chaff and block and just like hold like that flank. They can get to a place on a flank or on a line or chaff or something and just not go anywhere, right? And really just get stuck in. I had 3 of them. Like, I played my Bretonnian force against our Ironjawz player once, and I made the mistake of putting like King Lewin into like 3 Gore Grunters, and it took me 3 turns to freaking get my way out of this thing with the King of Bretonnia right on this Griffin. It took me 3, like, not 3 combat rounds, 3 rounds of the game to kill my way through these stupid pigs.
Sounds like you should have retreated.
Well, I was stuck in and dumb, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like, at that point, it became a matter of pride. The King of Bretonnia has to be able to kill these 3 idiots. But yes, I should have retreated. But there you go.
Most people I know that have bought Ironjawz and have played them have stopped playing them. Like, they haven't kept up with it, and a lot of people say to me that their damage output's just not there. But I think it's all psychology, because when you look at Gore Grunters, the first thing that comes in, and when you read the books and how Gore Grunters are in the books as well, like two lines of Liberators, like the Shield Wall, just vaporizes the second the Gore Grunters sort of hit. Like they have real punch. You expect them to be, I don't know, Mornfang from 8th edition or something. You just look at the model and you expect this to come in and do impact hits and just absolutely waste things, but they're not like that at all. So I think that's somewhere where people go quite wrong, is that they get the model, they have an expectation of what it should be or what they think it should be compared to things in the past, and try and play it like that and say, oh, these guys don't do damage, they don't do whatever. You know, and I mean, fair enough, that's what you wanted them for. You wanted big orcs on big pigs that were going to wreck face, and they don't. I mean, their damage isn't poor, their damage is okay, but that's not what they're there for. And I think there's just, that's been the problem around here that I've seen with the few players that have picked up Ironjawz, is that they just didn't understand the army as such. They wanted it to be something that it's not.
No, I think that's probably accurate. And I think I want to just piggyback on what Vince said. Like, they are anvils. They're mobile anvils. And you need to go in. Like, I was like, I'm going to make them work. And I ran through all the numbers, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, because I was trying to make them into this offensive force, and that's just not what they do. Yeah. And if you go into it with that mindset, you're misunderstanding what they are.
I think that, you know, playing Age of Sigmar so far, playing Death, the unit that has won me the most games and the MVP of the whole Death faction, in my opinion, are Skeletal Horsemen, right? Because
absolutely A+, man. Those Skeletal Horsemen and Skeletal Horse Archers, best units in the Death faction.
Vince and I were just talking about this. They're the unsung heroes. Yep. They really are.
Yeah, no, they are so good. I mean, I can take Neferata, Mani the Mongol, Anubis the Necrosphinx as much as I like, and they can kill as many units as they want. Necropolis Knights just like chewing up the world, but at the end of the day, it's always Skeletal Horsemen running around the back, capturing objectives, retreating out of combat, regrowing, whatever. They're always the guys that win me the game. And I think Gore Grunters,
they're battle line.
Yeah. But I think Gore Grunters are the same. You know what I mean? And you just go like, I don't want to charge my Skeletal Horsemen into combat ever if I can. You know, I just need them to be alive to block and run around, and that's it. And I think Gore Grunters are going to fill the same role, except when I do need to block, they're probably going to be a little bit more capable.
Yep. Absolutely. And you know, the final like sort of base unit I want to mention that you talked about is Ardboys. I think a lot of people look at the Ardboys and are like, well, I don't get it. What's the point? I think it's exactly what you said. Like, these guys are the objective holders, right? And like how the player that it's in my group usually uses them is he kind of like holds them back. You know, he's maneuvering and blocking off things with the Gore Gruntas, pushing the brutes up to do, you know, the damage where he needs to hit hard. And those Ardboys are just kind of lurking around, right? And they're moving for the objective. And then all of a sudden, the brutes have smashed up your lines, and now there's like 20 or 30 Ardboys sitting on an objective that you need to hold, and like you're not going to move them because you just had brutes tear their way through your hammer, right? And you're like, oh well, okay. And I guess you just own that now.
And you can mix their armament too. Like, that's the other half of this, so that you could run, you know, a portion shields and then a bunch of like two-handers for the rend, and then just allocate the first half of your wounds to the shield guys for that extra 6-up t-shirt save. And then just continually beat on them with your great weapons.
That's exactly what I've done with my Ardboys, is run the 10 great weapons, and then the command, and then 7 shields, because that's 14 odd wounds. And that's the other thing about the Ardboys, is that 2 wounds each. You know, if you have 20 of them, if you have 30 of them, it's 60 wounds. Like, and they're a 4-up base. They're hard to budge. They're so hard to budge.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a daunting number to get through. And like, you know, my opponent's a big fan of having the weird knob shaman just run around when he needs to hold, just like either walking them into terrain if the objective happens to be on terrain, or, you know, mystic shielding them or something like that. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I am certainly not, you cannot, like, 60 wounds on a 3-up save. That's a hell of a thing to punch through, right? You've got to have a real hammer.
That's like trying to peel a block of plague bearers that have been fully buffed up, including a buff by Glotkin.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's why this force really works, because one of the things I really like about the Ironjawz and the way they made them, like the way that they designed the army, is that it actually, you feel like the stuff in this army has a role and the characters synergize with those roles, right? So you take like the war chanter and his little ability to just be like +1 to hit, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, doo-ba-doo, +1 to hit, right? And he just like follows around brutes and makes these idiots hit on 2s. And suddenly it's just like, well, I've got 30 attacks. I hit with 28 of them. You know, there's probably some kind of rerolling.
Yeah, because they're running around with a war boss nearby.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the conversion rate becomes astronomical, right? And go ahead.
There's only 4 heroes in the faction. Well, there's 5 if you sort of include Godrak, the name character. But you know, there's only 4. There's the Maw Crusher, there's the big boss, there's the wizard, and then there's the drummer. And every single one has a specific role. And in I reckon probably 80% of the games you're going to be including all 4 of the bosses. You know what I mean? The whole faction you bring to the table and you play that way. So like it's fantastic. It's complete. You know what I mean? It is complete. Everything has a clear role. Everything works together, and it can just be happy. But again, too, like I said, it's a double-edged sword because that's all we've got. You know what I mean? The variety may not be there.
It was well designed.
Yeah, it's a tight package.
Yeah.
You know, now, so let's that's again, you're setting up these segues really well. So let's talk about combining these guys with other, you know, with a larger destruction force, right? Can you do it? Should you do it? How can you do it? That kind of thing. So, I mean, what are your initial thoughts on this, Doom?
Well, I'd like to start this off by asking the Illuminati of the wargaming community. What's with the giant in the starter box? Like, are we going to get an Ironjawz buddy? You know, keyword on that.
Well, I haven't seen the battalion scroll that comes out of that.
It adds it, but it's not pointed.
Right. Sure. So if they would only point that, then you could actually play that giant in a matched play game. Yes. I mean, I don't know. I think here, my particular guess, they needed to put X amount of extra dollars in there and couldn't figure out another way to cut it and had some giants sitting around.
And they didn't want to put like 5 more brutes and just make it redundant. They wanted
or a cabbage.
Yeah. That's what I felt like when I looked at their inclusion. I'm just like,
look, here's the thing though. That giant kit is awesome. Okay, you get cows and sheep and like a bunch of big weird weapons, and actually you get like a guy hanging in a cage and the screaming guy running away. Like bits wise, worth it. Totally worth it. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's true. It's true.
What I'd like to do with my Ironjawz, ideally, is there's only really 7 models that I want to add in, and I always sort of like I like to be a bit beardy when I play, but I try and build my army sort of thematically and then beat it up as I go. So I want to put the giant in because he should be in there, and then I want like 6 trolls, right? Any sort of trolls. They don't have to be river trolls. They could be rock trolls or whatever. But I want an unit of trolls, like just to complete that sort of destruction trifecta.
So what are your battle lines?
Yeah, well, in order to do that sort of thing, I need to then go with a classic sort of destruction battle line, which is like Grots or just Orc Boys. And you could say, look, that's easy. I'm going to put in 3 units of Orc Archers. Gives me a little bit of shooting. Kind of fits. They're like the peasants of the Ironjawz. And I can sort of min-max it still and whatever else. But it means I have to buy and paint 30 models in order to play with a 7. You know, and I hate that so much, and I'm not going to do it. So I'm happier to probably miss out on the other destruction models because I just don't want to have to be like, it's like the Cortax again. You know, when Anthony had his big Cortax sort of rant, and I completely agree with him. I just don't want to be forced down that path. I don't want to have to buy more or bring more in order to bring less. It just sort of, it just shits me to tears. So that's my frustration with them.
Sure. So I'll give you how the my Ironjawz player has solved this, and how I've played both against him and on his team. Because he has taken a mixed force multiple times, and the way he solved it is with ogres, just straight up ogres because he wants to keep the force light and elite and, you know, that kind of thing and mobile. So, you know, you can get a 3-pack of ogres for 120. They're straight battle line, right? And so in general, what he'll do is fill his battle line with that, or maybe one small min unit of goblins that he'll just use as like general chaff or objective holders, because then he'll have like 20 goblins running around. He can just like literally set them somewhere and then run them at an objective, like suicide sort of run at an objective late in the game to hold something if he needs to.
You don't
and
need
again,
your Ard boys. Your Ard boys aren't necessary if you have goblin units.
Right. So and then what he focuses on is, instead of having the Ard boys, so the goblins basically just take the body role of the Ard boys, right? Because now he's got other stuff. And then what he tends to bring in is a mix of various other destruction elements that are like really, really destructive. So that could mean like ogre monsters, right? Like you could see like the big mammoth creatures, Stonehorn and Thundertusk and stuff. Or he uses war machines. Like he'll actually use some of the destruction, like little crossbow shooter bolts, because those things, even though they're so cheap, and when you put them all next to each other with like one of the little whatever the bullies with them, they all make each other re-roll their missed hits or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you
just need to kill that bully, Vince.
I understand. Yeah. But like, that's not always possible when you've got a bunch of brutes bearing down on you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, as somebody who plays a lot of chaos, I don't always have a lot of ranged artillery to go out and reach that. And in that way, he's had a lot of fun with it, because then he starts being able to mix in pretty cheaply. But the ogres end up being useful to him. They end up being chaff in front of the brutes or something, right? They run out in front of the brutes, and they're still big, tough, dumb idiots who feel a lot like the same type of monster. So he still feels in flavor and has a useful unit and is solving his battle line problem, you know, pretty cheap, right? And then all of a sudden the world's his oyster.
So for me, I don't give up the thematic orc and goblin pairing easy. And so my intention has always been to mix black orcs with night goblins. Like that was always like something that I did anyways, and I thought it was kind of a fun thematic thing. And I would, paint them similar and, similar paint schemes. And so the Ironjawz were a natural fit for me with my night goblins. And mixing and doing that, exactly that, mixing in the base night goblins for the night goblins to be my bodies, and to be my objective holders, and then use the fanatics to body block to slow down combat. So you shoot you load the fanat or the grots, the Mooncan grots with fanatics, and then just use them to block incoming units to slow charges. You just throw them out in front and stop those incoming charges, so that like you don't even have to worry about battle shock, because you're going to have another round before they get in combat, and you can potentially maneuver some of your other, you can move them away, and potentially maneuver something else that's more threatening against those that are threatening your bodies. And there's a lot of neat synergy with the night goblins, like not directly, but it lets you focus on, like major on the majors. So it lets you grab, you get your masses of numbers with your grots, and then it lets you focus in on your big old brutes as your primary Ironjawz buy-in with a war boss. So
I'll also say, just real quick, let's not forget, if you do go all in and you've got Gordorak on the table, his command ability is destruction wide. It's one of those like once per game, but all of destruction is affected by it. Command abilities too, and it's pretty freaking brutal.
And if you have a battalion, it buffs the entire battalion, no matter where they are.
Yep.
Do you think the Ironjawz have made just traditional orcs completely redundant though? So not your savage orcs, because your savage orcs still have a place and a theme and so forth. But when you look at Ironjawz and you look at the get started, like for the orcs with the chariot and boar boys and stuff like that, do you just sort of say, why would I ever buy this? Or I don't know. I don't see how I can even factor that whole component of destruction into my army anymore, let alone the fact that there's the difference in the models. I mean, I don't know why, but I always want my army to look good. I played against an army the other day, a death army led by, it was all vampires and Vargheist and crypt horrors and whatever. They're all big, really impressive models. And I just looked at his army and I was just jealous. I said, man, your army is beautiful. Like the models are beautiful. Everything is really, really good. And I want that when I play as well. It's a big deciding factor. Like if something is really, really strong, skeletal horsemen are my only exclusion. Okay, I'll take skeletal horsemen even though they look like crap. But normally I want my whole army.
You need to do some conversions. You need to do some conversions and make them look good.
Well, my psychology tells me just get Black Knights because they look awesome and they look like skeletal horsemen, right? But my mind still, every time I put them down, I say, no, I'm proxying, and I feel bad.
That's because
no, that's fine. I still just feel like I'm proxying, and I feel like that's all wrong. It's just I don't know, something's happening.
See, the answer is to get the Tomb King shields, get the Tomb Guard heads, and maybe get some lances from some Cold One Knights. And it's going to change your aesthetic enough to not look like the Black Knights. That's actually what I've done. I have all the bits on the shelf, and that's what I'm going to do for my Tomb King flavored. I actually have the skeletal horsemen, which are just skeletons riding naked skeletal horses, naked skeletons with spears. Like it is the most it's a terrible model, and so I wanted something more Tomb Kingsy.
If you wanted to send me some of those conversions, Tom, that might go a long way to getting more people to vote for Vince, I suspect.
Yeah, look, I think we can all agree if there's one thing we can come away from this Ironjawz discussion agreeing on, it's that skeletal horsemen are amazing, even though they have crappy models. But, all right. So, yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel that traditional orcs and goblins now just don't have a place in Age of Sigmar. The Savage Orcs do, the Arachnorocks do, the Spider Riders do still. You can even argue that grots like Night Goblins have still got a very distinctive faction. They've still got squigs. Like that all still sort of works together, I feel. But just your Orc boys and like your Boar boys and your Chariots and all of those bosses that went with it, even the Shamans, like I don't get it. Why would anyone take them away, GW? Just get rid of them now, because I just feel they've been superseded. Ironjawz have just killed them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think most of the flavorless things are probably not I don't think we're gonna ever see a new faction or support of
for greenskins.
Vanilla anything. Right? Not even just orcs, beyond that. You're right. The things that are interesting are the ones that have a theme, right? Like you said, the spider guys. Yeah, that makes sense. They're coherent. They got this cool aesthetic. You got all this stuff. So we could see a spider force at some point in time. I think we will. They get talked about a lot. The Ironjawz have a cool aesthetic. They look different. They're not just orcs, just orcs, right? It's the same. You're probably not just going to see humans that are just humans. You know what I mean? I don't think you're going to see a lot of state troop type of guys released. That isn't to say you won't see humans. I think you'll see the devoted of Sigmar, at some point in time, but that's just it. They'll be the crazy religious fanatics and stuff like that. Right. So they've got,
I think you could see free peoples, but it would be free peoples of a certain city with a certain aesthetic and a certain set of
it'll have a very specific, strong
culture. Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I totally agree. I think that, and, moreover, I don't know that there's anything in that stuff other than what the good general out of the compendium. What's what's his name? The guy on the Wyvern. He's the good, he's the good,
Azak or whatever.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking Lord of the Rings?
No, that sounds right. Let's go with that. I seem to remember his ability being pretty strong, but, I think most of your common orcs, they don't fill a role either. You don't need them. You wouldn't bring them into the force. There's nothing they're doing for you, right? So
the big other the big thing that militates against this are your war machines in your grot, the base grot list, because all of so your Chukka, your Lava, your Chukka, Lava, your Doom Diver, all of those are sitting in the base grot list. And those actually bring something that's unique and valuable that you can't get in any of the other destruction lines.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, man, the Chukkas are I picked those as a war machine way back when we first did our go way back, and you'll see that my war machine pick for best out of out of everything Orc and Goblin related was the Chukka, and I stand behind it. But you got to take multiples of them. Like that's the key. You got to have the bullies around or whatever. Bully. And then those things they'll put holes in things. And yes, that is a nice addition to the force. I think that's like that or the big the frost horns or frost whatever they're called. The frosty mammoths that do the 6 mortal wound, like boo 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 shot, like that's a good reason to go out there because it gives more reach to the force. Right. That's probably the one thing that Ironjawz really suck at is, there's one of the things that my Ironjawz player frequently runs up against if he's playing like we have a person who plays like a very free people centric list. That's the porcupine list. It's like 5 cannons and ranks of handgunners and a celestial hurricanum somewhere in the back, just broadcasting this +1 to hit around with engineers interspersed for rerolls. And so like, yes, indeed. So he can't get at that celestial hurricanum with his pure Ironjawz force, right?
Yep.
But as soon as he took and broadened out and had the chukkas, that thing was just shot to pieces in like a minute. It's just like all those chukkas just drew a bead. We're like, boop, 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 just shot that thing into splinters, man. So I think there is good synergy with the rest of the list, with the rest of destruction, and I don't think you lose that much for doing it. They don't have to.
Here's what I would say. Like, here's the weakness, and this is if I were to make 2 changes to Ironjawz. I don't know if I'm transitioning too quickly to something like this.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
If I were to make 2 changes, the 2 changes would have been this. I would have lowered the cost on Gordrak and the other cabbage, the war boss on Maulcrusher. They're just a little bit too much. Not a lot, but 20 to 40 points too much at least.
I would agree with that.
60.
How can Neferata be 440 points and a Maulcrusher is 520 points? And
that's
Neferata
what I'm
is like a double caster, a -1 to hit, like a beast in combat as well, and then this shit, like, fuck.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So like, I might cut him down to 480, from 520. Like, I don't know that I would take him lower, but like I might go 480, maybe 460, but I think you're pushing it. And then Gordrak, I could take down to like 640, maybe. I mean, he's still really good, and he's really devastating. Yeah. I mean, even at 640, he's still really good. So that's the one change, is lower their points. The other one was, I think I would have made Ardboy's generic battle line.
Right.
Because that would have made Ironjawz like more flexible to be able to show up in mixed list. Because right now, if you do a mixed list, you have to basically draw your battle line from all other units. And I think you would have seen many more, in fact, mixed lists with Ardboys, mixing in like 2 units of brutes, Ardboys. You get your battalion for extra movement, and you've now fulfilled it amongst those 3 units, and you've gotten a battle line out of the deal, and that gives you enough to then mix into something else. But now you have to make the decision of where you're going to get your battle line from. And it's one of the specialized factions, which means you don't get your battle line from it. So you have to go to something generic. Where like another army that suffers from this is the Spiderfang. Like, if you want to include Spiderfang, you have to get all of your battle line from somewhere else. You don't get the option to. So like, there's no world realistically where you could mix Spiderfang and Ironjawz, for example, unless you're mixing a 3rd faction in for battle line. Right. And so I think that if they had just had one default battle line, which Ardboys would have been that unit, then I think it would have been a better. Like, I think it would have been a more rounded, and you would see more Ironjawz.
Well, they could have even done it they could have still, like, one of the things I'll be interested to see with the GHB2 is if they play around with when things become battle line a little more.
Okay.
Like, let me give you an example. Okay.
Yeah.
What if Ardboys are battle line if your general is an Auric?
Yeah.
Okay. Not Ironjawz, or you have to declare allegiance to Ironjawz, right? Like, just any Auric.
Well, like, let me push that though. You're like, yeah, that would be awesome to have that flexibility. What if it was just simply if your general is Ironjawz?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So like that would alleviate so many list building issues right now.
Right.
Because that means that you can like primary in a faction or in a sub faction, and then do a secondary minor sub faction, and still be able to mix, but not have this overbearing mix. Because you're not gaining the best of both.
Yeah, I agree. I hope they play with that more. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doom.
No, I was just going to say, I think that everything that Tom just hit the nail on the head with the structure, and I mean, and just simply as well, if you made Ardboys Battle Line, you would sell so many more Ardboys, it would be ridiculous. Because if you're an Orcs and Goblins player and you don't want to play with Grots and you don't want to play with a lot of little individual units, you can go with Savage Orcs, but you need a lot of Savage Orcs anyway for them to become truly savage, or you run Ardboys, and they're your two options. They're the two go-tos, and at the moment, just with the structure, you're not going with Ardboys because otherwise you're just going with Ironjawz completely. So you're not going to buy them, So just make them Battle Line and sell the models and let us all be happy, and everyone wins, right?
Because what's going to happen is you're not only going to buy that. And here's the funny thing: they're not just going to buy Ardboys. They're going to go buy your Getting Started box because you're upselling them immediately to the Getting Started box. And then once you've done that, you're in that purchase, you're not getting as many Ardboys per box. So they're going to buy multiple Getting Started boxes. So it just seems like it's win across the board for them.
Or you're going to be buying your standalone Orc boss on foot, who costs a fortune compared to, in the box sets. And then there's a big profit margin there as well. So you're going to just go by him, just buy Orc Ardboys, and then buy the rest of the stuff to fill out your army. And it's winning for everyone. So Tom's just nailed it, I reckon.
Well, there you go. You heard it here, GW. So I do hope they play around with the battle line and a lot, and sort of the sub factioning. I think you could keep a lot of the sub factional divisions that are there. I think they're thematic and most of them are appropriate. I don't think the problem is with the way the sub factions are divided. I think the problem is more with what is getting stapled with what as far as battle line goes, and maybe a few command abilities here and there. You could push very minimal things across a couple factions, and suddenly all that the feeling of ghettoization would be alleviated very quickly.
Yeah,
right? It wouldn't take huge resets.
So I hate to say this, but I'm going to default to something that neither of you care about, which is Nurgle. With a change as simple as a Nurgle general,
right?
You would move Blight Kings into Battle Line,
right?
Okay, and you're going to sell a lot more kits, and it's going to be a much more enticing mix.
And
that's probably repeated across many factions, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Sure.
Another way you could always keep it very similar, and this is very apparent with Death. And I know we're not talking about Death, but when you're looking at the what are they, the Mordants or the Malignants or whatever, and they're lacking that sort of hero sort of space, is that I think sometimes in order to move forward, and you'll probably disagree with me on this, Vince, but GW just needs to take a step back a little bit sometimes, and they need to borrow a little bit from 8th edition, but they also need to take what's working in 40k. And, in 40k, you can work almost any combination of any faction into any sort of army with the ally system and whatever else. And it means you just pay a little bit more. But it's simply you take a hero, you take a battle line unit, and then you can take an allied sort of detachment. You can put more models in there. It's restricted. But it's very, very easy then for me to take my Ironjawz and those other models that I wanted if I just take one extra hero, one extra battle line, and I can build these little sort of detachments on or bolt in wherever I'm missing or whatever. And it's a very simple, easy sort of structure. It's probably not the best way, but it's a band-aid you could apply almost straight away, and I reckon it will work.
No, I don't disagree. There's certainly some out there. There's just some of those sub-factions that are like that. I think it's a good, once again, you've set me up for a good transition, because I can think of another way we could solve the problem. And that is the thing you mentioned with the giant, and that is battalions, right? Yeah. Because actually giving us good pointed battalions that open up options and allow you to bring in other units and then make them all, Simo keyworded, right? You can have these other things in here and now they all count as Ironjawz or whatever. And clearly we've seen they're willing to do that.
Yep.
Right. It just happened again in Spire of Dawn with the Sword Masters and the Archmage. So I think those battalions that let you do that need to get pointed and need to be available for matched play so that people can bring those forces. But are there any existing battalions that either of you really like in the current force?
So there's the low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
And that it's going to be the Ard Fist. The extra movement Ard Fist. It's cheap. It's straightforward. You're already bringing all of those units anyways. And so It's great.
Iron Fist you're talking about.
I'm sorry. Did I say? You're right. I said Ard Fist.
Yeah.
Iron Fist is what I was talking about. Yeah. Yeah. And again, you're bringing all those units. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's honestly three that I like, and I'd even consider running two. One being the Weird Fist, where the Shaman gets the buff. Right. I think that's fairly easy to do. 3 units of brutes is pretty doable. And then your Shaman, you're getting that buff. That's pretty important if you're not running 2 Shamans or whatever. The Iron Fist is pretty go-to, but I would sort of be tempted to run a Gore Fist and a Weird Fist. If I really want to put 9 sort of Gore Grunters on the table and I want to give them a 15-inch move before anything ever happens, that's pretty important, I sort of think, because especially if you get first turn, you're dictating the game before it even begins, and your opponent has to react before anything has even started. So it doesn't seem like, but if you're going to be running 3 units of Gore Grunters, the Gore Fist is pretty important just to getting that best foot forward from the very beginning. So, I mean, I think those 3 are quite usable, but the others are kind of not.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's funny, the Weird Fist I just talked to Vince about, because I was like, I wonder if I could throw a Balewind Vortex into a list, and put that Weird Shaman on, give him a 60-inch reach across the board, and that +1 to cast, which importantly moves your Stompy Stomp, your Foot of Gork down to a 7 from an 8.
Yep.
And that's a big shift, moving from a 7 to an 8 on a cast. And you're going to be doing a ton of wounds when it fires off as well. So,
yeah, I don't disagree with any of those. I mean, I think that to me, with the Ironjawz battalions, there's none that I thought were like, OMG, got to have this every time. Let me be very clear. There's no Cunnin Ruck in the Ironjawz battalions.
You
right?
Really don't think that Iron Fist fits that?
I don't, because it's not whether it's good or bad, or yes, I'd take it, or maybe I'd throw the points at it. It's Cunnin Ruck. The power of it is just like, it tempts you to just try to squeeze it into every destruction list ever. People are like, I'm going to do this kind of destruction and a Cunnin Ruck and this and then a Cunnin Ruck, right? It just starts worming its way into everything.
But
that's not this.
No, but what I would say is, like, if you build any Ironjawz list, you automatically qualify for this battalion.
Sure.
Okay. And it's cheap. It's like 60 points.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I have that right. It's 60, right?
I think that's right, yeah.
And on top of that, so not only do you basically always qualify for it, it's doing more of what you already want to do, which is get across the board faster. So you're moving 2d6 in that entry, that first stage, rather than in the hero phase, rather than 1d6 with these core units. And on top of all of that, it's giving you another item.
Sure. Look, I'm not saying it's not good. I think it is good. Okay. I don't think it's the lever that moves the world. Okay. I haven't heard anybody talking about we need to adjust the way the Iron Fist works because of its impact on the tournament scene, right? Cunnin Ruck is such a different animal because of what it allows with its synergy.
Yeah. No, that's true.
This is just good.
Filthy.
I was going to say it's beady and filthy.
Yeah. To me, the Iron Fist is exactly in line with what we were talking about earlier. It's good, right? I'm not saying it is anything else, but it's a solid choice on an already solid force that makes your solid troops do the solid things they do in a more solid fashion. That's
Certainly.
it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Right?
I agree.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to ever lay down an Iron Fist and somebody's going to be like, forget this. I'm not playing. It's not Warrior Brotherhood or whatever, right? So, yeah. Okay. Rock and roll. All right. So let's kind of think about, so what I want to kind of end on here with this is your overall feeling on the force, like aesthetics, cost, gameplay, kind of your summation on it of, and here's the other thing. what about this force? Because I think it's really popular, and I think it brought a lot of people back to orcs, you know, in a big way.
Yeah.
What about this sort of release? What are the, what do I want to say? What are the core principles of this you want to see carry forward into other releases in the future? Does that make sense? Like, what about this was the good? What's the secret sauce that should be repeated? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, Doom, kick us off there, buddy.
So I think that this is the best release that GW has made since Age of Sigmar has come out. I think they got rid of the goofy, trashy orcs, which so many people used to love and used to be such a big part of it, but it sort of made the Ard boys, like it made Ironjawz get real all of a sudden. I don't know. I just feel like they are the big, brutal, heavy hitters that I want orcs to be, not the orcs that, you know, charge off and start fighting other goblins. I mean, I know people love that, but for me personally, whatever, you know what I mean? The models all look fantastic. I feel like I can play Age of Sigmar how the game is designed to be played, and that's with fewer models, not more models, and with models that have an aesthetic that's designed for the new game. They look new, they look fresh, there's something different. They don't fit with everything else. And so if I play Ironjawz, I feel like I'm playing Age of Sigmar, right? You know, as opposed to when I'm playing Tomb Kings on square bases and shit just kind of doesn't fit, stuff just doesn't kind of fit properly. They're probably the main things. I mean, cost of the army as well is fantastic. I can make 5 armies like Ironjawz in a year. Like, I can commit to that. I can get them painted. I can get them done. I can play with them. It's going to be great, and move on to the next thing. I couldn't sort of do that before. So it's ticking those boxes. If they replicate that for every other faction they release moving forward, where they release, you know, 6 to 8 models or whatever else, and it ticks all of those boxes, they're going to win with absolutely everything. It's going to be fantastic. I've forgotten the other half of the question, but I mean, that's it for me with Ironjawz. That's why I want them and why they're good.
No, I think you hit all the you hit all the question. Yeah, exactly. I agree completely. Tommy, what do you think? I mean, anything additional thoughts to add on that?
So the 3 factors, I think the special sauce here for what makes this such a magical release. Because I agree. Let me just say from the outset, I think this is the best release, bar none, that GW pulled off as a faction.
Yeah.
And I mean, competing very close by would probably be the Sylvaneth.
Right.
But I think that
if anybody who's going to disagree with you, they're going to pick Sylvaneth. But anyways.
Yeah. Like, but in my pushback for Sylvaneth is that you have to buy a bunch of fucking terrain pieces. In order to make the army. No. And I mean, like, I love terrain. I love trees. Don't get me wrong. But I have to, for every, you know, like tree for every time I want to use an ability, I have to spend $30 to $100. Okay. And so I'm going to probably need to spend an additional $400 in terrain. That's why I'm not picking Sylvaneth. Okay. So first of all, I think it's the best release that GW did. It's for 3 reasons. One, it is tight and it is self-contained.
Yeah.
I feel like it is a complete faction. And I think that every piece feels essential to the faction. There is no waste in any of those units. I may not like the functionality of some units. I may wish the Gore Grunters were more killy. But the reality is that every single one of those pieces has a key functionality on the battlefield. And it's really indispensable. If you take any of those away, you have to go outside the sub-faction to replace it. Because you're going to be missing something in your toolbox. So tight and self-contained. The second one is it is circumstantially or conditionally affordable. By that is this: if you're all in, then you're going to be buying multiple of the getting started boxes, and then you can fill in the holes. Likewise, we had a small window where we had the Battle Force box releases. Again, 1 Battle Force box, 1 getting started, and 1 Maul Crusher, and you now have a complete army. There's just no other faction that does that. Again, the next closest was the Sylvaneth with their Battle Force they're getting started, and with Alariel. But then again, you're still buying however many Citadel Woods in order to make that faction work.
Right.
And so I think that's why the Ironjawz edge them out. And then finally, the last of those factors is they're aesthetically compelling. They, in both in lore wise, like you get what's going on here. They want to smash some heads, and they're heavily armored. And they look just amazing. They're stunning models.
Can I just tap onto the end before you go, Vin?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead. By all means.
So in the Realm Gate Wars in the books, when you get to reading about Ironjawz, it's the funnest thing that you would ever expect. But they are everything you want an orc to be. So when you get like an orc big boss, like on a Maw Crusher, he will just say, doesn't matter what it is, Manfred, 2 Lord Celestins, put them all on top of the tower. I'll go toe-to-toe with all of them at once. I don't even care. You can throw me down from the tower 4 times, and I'll be back there in an instant. Yeah, they're fighting these orcs, the brutes and stuff, and they would like smash the jaw off one. Like the jaw will go flying off, and the brute will just laugh at him and keep fighting. You know, it's fantastic. There's a scene in there where one of the Lord Celestins, the Lord Celestin of the Astral Templars, chops the heads off all the orcs that they kill and mounts them on poles, right? And this is a way of befriending the remaining Ironjawz, right? And so everyone's confused. They're saying, hang on, if you're cutting their heads off and putting them on poles, isn't this going to make them angry? And when Godrak turns up and they're talking, he says, oh, I see what you did. You put all their heads on the poles so they can watch the fighting. That's the proper good thing to do, you know? And that's the sort of mentality that they have. It's just, it's so, it's awesome, you know? So that's the way you respect Orc Dead, is put their head on poles so they can still watch the battle to come. And there's, like, honestly, they are just these brutal forces of nature that you just cannot stop. And when you read the fluff, and there's that scene, like I said with, it's basically 300. There's these last Stormcasts. The Ironjawz are coming. It's this huge warg, and they're like, we just have to stop them. There's no way we can stop these guys taking the fortress. So the last of this storm host goes out to the hot gates, forms up, and we're going to hold them here for as long as we can. And the, what do they call them? The prime of the Liberators is standing there in the shield wall, and the shield wall is like 4 Liberators deep with back-to-back. And they're watching this charge of gore grunters come on them, and it's just the thoughts that are going through the prime's head. And he just knows that no matter what he does, no matter how much of a hero he is or how strong, there's no way that he's going to survive what's about to come. And when the gore grunters hit, the front wall of the Liberators just instantly vaporizes, just like 2 deep, just squashes into absolutely nothing, this big lightning blast. And you just go like, oh, it's so cool. That scene is so powerful. And when you read the books in the Realm Gate Wars with the Orcs, with Big Red and whatever else, and Godrak in there, who just wants to fight everything, you just go, I just want to be these guys. I want to buy them. I want to put them on the table, and I just want to fight everything. Like it's really, really good. That's the one thing I forgot.
No, I love it, because I think I will. You guys have made a lot of good points, so I'm just going to piggyback on what you said to make sort of my final point, which is this. So one of the things that's appealing about AOS is that a lot of models and armies feel more like the way they were described in the story, right? Like, that is to say, when you look at big monsters now with their tons of wounds and the various crazy special attacks that they have and these kinds of things, right? Things feel more like they did narratively, right? If that makes sense. I mean, it's hard to really put a finger on that, but like something about the verisimilitude of the thing is just stronger, right? And to me, the Ironjawz are the orcs we've always believed they should be, ramped up and made like set to 11, like everything else in Age of Sigmar, right? And that's why I think, even though I did personally like the Sylvaneth release better, but I do agree with you on the damn trees, I think the Ironjawz are the most emblematic of what Age of Sigmar is capable of, right? Because you've got these like orcs taken all the way into orkiness. They're the most orky orcs, right? Yeah. And I think that they fit the Age of Sigmar so well. They feel like you've always wanted orcs to feel. They're big, they're brutal, they're tough, they're destructive, they run forward fast and smash everything that gets in their way. Yep. Like that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like that is what orcs should be, right? It's not. Yeah. So I think to me, that's one of the reasons this thing hit so much. I think that even if you're not sort of consciously aware of that, like I don't think a lot of people sat around and thought that, right?
Yeah.
But it sort of appeals to you on a subconscious level. You just get it. There's something that groks about the Force, right? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they're truly brutal and cunning.
there you go. Exactly. All right. So I think that brings us to the end of the Ironjawz discussion. I think clearly they've got a big thumbs up. I have enjoyed certainly I don't own any destruction factions except my giant army I'm working on, and I look forward to that. I look forward to when I actually get some battle line giants, but that's all right. I'll await that day. But I've played against them and I certainly love them. I think they're clearly getting a thumbs up from both of you, as your investment would say. So, if you were on the fence about them, I'd say Ironjawz is not a bad investment. As we've pointed out, cost-wise, they're certainly one of the more economical choices you can make. All right, so Doom, any closing thoughts? Any last pearls of wisdom you wanna leave the audience with?
No, there's nothing so deep or wise here, folks. So sorry.
Tom, any final thoughts?
In the immortalized words of the Greenskins, here we go.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. Round 8, ear come to orcs. That's right. Okay, so I will say thank you very much to Doom and Darkness. If you are not already subscribed to Doom, what are you doing with your life? Stop throwing your life away. His channel will be linked down below. Go sub to the man. Great reports. And you'll also learn amazing things about Australian wildlife and all sorts of other great stuff. So it is a informative and fun channel. So sub up. It's down there. Do it. 3, 2, 1. Do it. All right. But as always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We very much appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Vote for Vince.